The inside stories bring together people from different sectors to talk about the important issues we're facing in Oman. Tonight, we're talking about education and the future of work.
So tonight at Sultan Qaboos University, the discussion will involve people from the university, some students. There will be some people from various ministries and the private sector. So looking at what does the private sector want, looking at the interaction with things like school placements and getting experience, looking at things like soft skills, work ethic, looking at culture, how things are changing, and really what the future of education in Oman should be.
Well, with the Minister of Education, if we think about when it started, in 1970 up to now, it had two phases. The first phase was to think about the quantity, building more schools everywhere to reach all of the kids in the country. So that was how it used to be up to 1995. But then there was the Vision 2020, which said, let's stop now, let's look at the quality. Because at that time, a lot of people in the private sector and also the higher education was complaining, we don't have, the graduates do not come with the right skills and knowledge.
When people talk about the skills gap, it's exactly the same in the UK as it is here in Oman. And often we get CBI often are saying, you know, young people coming out from school don't have the skills. But what happens is that people aren't very specific sometimes about that. So one of the things we worked on together was looking at what the outcomes needed to be for young people when they left the academy at either 16, 18 or 19, depending on when they went. And that was a very helpful conversation, because what it helped to do was put some flesh on the bones around those skills that people talk about, which are often that there's a view that the soft skills, which actually are the hardest things of all to teach, are, you know, somehow interfere in the academic world of schools, and the two things aren't mutually exclusive.
There's a lot of focus on IQ, but EQ is very important in today's world, and without having the assertiveness, without having the self-awareness, it's very difficult for individuals to develop.
I think when the education can do so much, obviously, you go through an educational program. When that finishes, there is still quite a large task to carry out. It's quite interesting that back in my own country, in the UK, there's a large culture of young workers. Now, if I take from myself, for example, I sort of started going out doing part-time work when I was about 12. So by the time I got to sort of 17, 18, deciding what I was going to do, I'd had about 4 or 5 years actually earning my own money and understanding what it was to earn your own money. And therefore my decision-making, what I was going to do, was much stronger. I had much more of a background about what it was all about, so I felt quite safe. And that's something which lacks here, I feel, that when the kids come out of school, it's like, oh.
A lot of new ideas came with the reform. For example, now we have career guidance in the school, which didn't happen before. And it started only 3 years ago. But in that initiative, what we introduce students to a lot of skills. For example, time management, how to write CV in Arabic and English, how to go for an interview, how to write a covering letter, work ethics, to know more about further education, higher education, about training, how to start your own business.
One of the key things that struck me is about the need to reconcile the needs of the labour market and the future requirements of the labour market with what the education system is actually providing. And that's very much about intelligence and sharing information so that you have an effective dialogue that talks about what the future needs are of the economy in Oman and the global economy, and how best you can prepare young people to meet those needs. And that might be that areas like vocational education need to be looked at more closely, but also a recognition that the status of vocational education might need to be addressed, because it isn't a poor relation in terms of education. It actually often provides a much better route into a worthwhile career and can provide the very skills that industry is saying that it needs.
I wish there would be more dialogue. I wish we'd hear more, because whenever we met with the private sector, we got excellent ideas. We'll ask them, what would you like to see in our graduates? And a lot of time, they say our graduates are not ready. And I know in some areas they are not ready. In many areas they are not ready at this stage, because we haven't seen the graduates of the reform up to now. But they would say, okay, they lack English, they lack IT and soft skills. And then you say, what kind of soft skills? And they get stuck. How much of English? What are the gaps? We don't get enough information. We get information, but not enough. As long as there is dialogue, we'll be doing well. I want a lot of companies to come and say, we welcome your students to come and do the work experience in our place. Because up to now, no matter how much we push for entrepreneurship and, with the kids, the culture is there of, I want to go to the university. The culture is there like, I want to work in a government sector, because they grew up seeing their parents in the government sector. They don't feel the security of the private sector. So we need to wait for for the change. I asked the private sector to be patient with us and not to expect immediate result, because change takes time and we have to be patient to see the results.
We feel we're almost at the coalface of the day-to-day challenges of young people coming out of school. Right, our job is to get them ready for work. And we really have a strong responsibility there. And I don't feel sometimes further education establishments do enough. They feel that, yes, okay, we'll bring them in, we'll put them in a program, and then it's a duty of the employer to employ them. There has to be a lot more going on in there. You have a duty to those young people to really make them aware of what it is. And it's hard. You have to make some hard decisions. But we have a duty to ensure that they know what's expected of them when they leave.